Number two of the Art Lewis Show. We're going to spend time this morning with the man who heads up the Midland Business Alliance. We say good morning to Tony Stamas. Tony, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Great to be with you.
As always, look forward to it. So let me just ask, what's new at the Midland Business Alliance? What's on the agenda?
You think summer things will slow down, but they really don't. It's been a busy summer, and I always tell everybody my superpower is being delusional. I'm always like, once we get past this, it'll slow down, but it never does.
Never does.
So it's been a busy summer. We just had last Saturday. We did a ribbon cutting, which we get to do lots of those, and we always love those. But this was to celebrate our 80th anniversary as a farmers market. And so we had a great community turnout. Elected officials are their representatives, and so we do that every Wednesday and Friday over in the Dow Diamond parking lot, and it's a great event. A lot of vendors, a lot of people, and so that was kind of a fun celebration.
There was a lot of discussion after the floods as to where the farmers market was going to end up. Is the Dow Diamond parking now the permanent location?
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of working on, what it might look like to make sure, you kind of have the amenities. I mean, certainly it's been a great setting there with the Diamond, and sometimes it's Michigan, so you have a lot of tents up there, and the wind will come up, and as well situated as you have the tents, you'll see something flying across there. So we're still trying to kind of figure out that. You get a lot of people there, in terms of restrooms and amenities, but they've been a great partner. So we're hard at work on that, but it really is. It's kind of part of, right at the end there of the downtown, and parking is really good there. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback for that location.
How's the Buttles construction doing for you?
Most days it seems to be moving along well. It's going to be, like with a lot of projects, you say it'll be great when it's done, and I think that's true. But they're doing a good job, and this year they got Buttles two ways, and next year it'll be Indian. But I think, in the end, you got to invest in this infrastructure, and I think it'll be really a nice addition to Midland and the downtown. And I think, again, it'll be great when it's done.
Well, you have a couple events coming up in August, two on the same day, as a matter of fact. August 19th, there's the regional summit at lunchtime for the chambers. And then you have the business after hours at the Midland Brewing Company that we're involved in. It's going to be a busy day.
It's going to be a great day. Yeah, no, you're right, and that's we're really looking forward to that. So we've done this regional after hours for years with our friends in Bay and Saginaw and Mount Pleasant, and it's really a great event. And we're going to have Jeff Donofrio, who's the CEO of the Business Leaders from Michigan, and he's going to give an update on they kind of look at the state, where we're at, where we need to be at, and I think that'll be important. And then we have some wonderful friends that we're doing awards for, including somebody that I'm speaking with right now. We look at individual achievement award, and as we talked about it, the name Art Lewis got thrown out, and there was unanimity that yes, you have made such a difference in the region and all of our communities, and so we're going to be excited to celebrate you and some other great awardees. And then we'll get together that night and Midland Brewing Company and kind of have an additional celebration in the evening. So it's going to be a great day.
It's going to be a fun day. I had occasion to stop at the Sanford Lake Marina. The lake is back. It looks good.
It is.
Huge.
Yeah, it's, you go across the US 10 there and you see the boats out there and you see people at the park, and it is just so amazing to see. And really, it's hard to imagine, because that doesn't happen when dams go out. That just doesn't happen in the country, really probably around the globe. And the fact that what the Four Lakes did, Dave Kepler and so many others, and their leadership and their partnership, so that happened, and the other three lakes will be, coming forward here in the next year and a half. It's great to see the summer, and that's a part of so many people's their lives and their legacy and the community. And, you know, I think I'd heard the ice cream shop in downtown Sanford was hopping, and it is wonderful to see, and it's just a credit. You know, there's some tough challenges there and some tough things you have to work through, but the fact that people did it and collectively were able to move that forward is really remarkable.
Yeah, because a friend of mine owns that Sanford Lake Marina, and she just got a brand new gas tank. She's going to have wreck fuel for the boats. Only place on the lake where you can get fuel, and she's got a little store set up and everything, and she had bought the marina 2 weeks before the dams broke. Oops.
Yep. Yeah. No, I know, but I give her credit, and I've talked to her. She's a great entrepreneur, and she's persevered, and that really is to her credit. And so I'm hoping she has a really busy summer.
Yeah. Well, speaking of water, of course. Looking at the flood prevention program, how are we doing with that?
We're doing well. We keep moving forward with the Army Corps of Engineers, and in fact, we've got an important date coming up on August 5th. The Army Corps of Engineers, which is part of their processes, they're really very transparent, and with us working with the city and the county, are trying to always do likewise. So they're going to have a community open house. We'll be over at Northwood. They're great hosts for us at the Plaster Free Enterprise Center from 3 till 7, and there'll just be some tables where people can get information, and then we'll have a bit of a presentation just where we'll kind of go over updates from all the parties. But the Army Corps of Engineers is sponsoring this, and just kind of talking about, okay, as we've looked at it, we think that these are the solutions that we think make sense, but we want to make sure we continue to get public feedback. So we're really excited about that, hoping to have a great turnout for that, so we can kind of look on, the goal has always been, you want to protect life, reduce flood damage, and look at, okay, what ways can you build resiliency, knowing that, resources are never unlimited.
And, is there any kind of timetable for it to when you can say, look, we've actually put in place reduction?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at with the Army Corps, I mean, we've been doing a number of, working with our state and federal and local representatives, putting some, we're doing some street projects this year with the City of Midland, doing it rather, with ARPA dollars that we were able to get with, at the time, Representative Schuette, and then at that point, State Senator Kristen McDonald-Rivet. And so they're doing, and those have to be spent at the end of this year. And so the city is working hard, and those will help. So there's lots of pieces to that. But the Army Corps is a couple years out, but it's coming quickly. There's a process where if you have a recommendation, you have to do something through WRDA, Water Resources Act, and they do those every 2 years. So the next one's 2028, and that will be here very quickly. So we're trying to make sure that we've kind of got all of our ducks in a row, probably a fitting analogy, and we're ready to kind of go and say, look, we have a plan. The Army Corps has looked at this, and this is what they're recommending. The local partners, being the city, the county, and the Midland Business Alliance, think this makes sense. And then, if you get that go ahead, then you have to come up with the resources for whatever that plan might be.
Yeah, and has most of the region now recovered from the dam breaks? Other than the lakes are still coming, but has most of the region and businesses in the region recovered?
I think most of them. I mean, you still see areas that have been impacted, homes that were impacted, and so there's a couple projects that we're still trying to wrap up, in terms of FEMA. So it's taken a long time, but I think credit to the community and the region. There's a great perseverance. We're not gonna stop. We're gonna keep pushing forward and get answers and solutions. And so on the whole, but we also know that as my friend Bill Schuette will say, it is going to rain again. And we know that will happen. And at some point, we are in the Saginaw Valley. You look at topographical maps, and the water will flow here. And so we want to make sure that we've built more resiliency. So when we are impacted, we really lessen that impact for families and homeowners and businesses.
All right, Tony, hang on. I'm going to take a break. We'll be back. We're talking to Tony Stamas. He directs the Midland Business Alliance.
At Crystal Clear Hearing in Sag.
All right, we're back with you here on WSW. Talking to Tony Stamas. He directs the Midland Business Alliance. which is a combination of the chamber and economic development and all kinds of good stuff like that. And a leader in that, by the way. And it looks like there might be some others in this region that might do the same thing, Tony.
Yeah, I know. I know our friends in Bay are looking at that, and they've got some great leadership over there. And so I think in most cases, what I've seen is that those groups are working really closely together. It's kind of a matter of degree because you really have to. And I think when we came together, that was what the local leaders have said. Look, the overall goal is different. We have different ways of doing it. Different strategies. You work on different things, but really the end goal is to help businesses, to grow businesses, to help the community. And if that goal is in common, then how can we best do that? And really, in a time that resources are always challenged, how can you kind of do that in the most effective, efficient way? And so I think it makes sense. I think a lot of communities are going to be having that discussion if they haven't yet.
How has and if it has changed, how has the business climate changed in Midland with Dow not being singularly the focus, although Dow is still the biggest employer and My Michigan Health right behind them.
Yes.
But now you have Corteva, you have DuPont, and many others.
Right.
Has it changed the atmosphere of the community at all?
In some ways, I don't think so. I mean, I think, in terms of kind of the core of the community, certainly Dow is just such a cornerstone for our community and for our region, and that remains so. But it's been kind of exciting that we've gotten to work with new partners, like you said, like DuPont and Corteva and Trinzio and Cunity and Roquette and Cabot, and there's some really, really great companies. Many of them are the folks that work there were people that had previously worked at one of the other companies when there was the spin and they split off. And so that's been exciting. We were Cunity, which was part of the water division of DuPont, formed its own company, and they're in the iPark. And I think they've seen real strong growth, and they continue to do well. So it's kind of exciting to get to know these new businesses. We've got projects going on in the iPark for both DuPont and Corteva this year, where they're doing investments. And so, yeah, in some ways, many of the industries are the same, but you have different partners. And by and large, they've all been really good about how we can help them, but how they can help the community and work together for Midland and the Great Lakes Bay region. So that's been that's kind of been an exciting development, one that you wouldn't have necessarily guessed 10, 12 years ago. But and I think the Dow iPark is still, that's something, and we've talked about this, that we're really trying to market to businesses across the world. It's kind of a unique asset, the iPark, the surrounding properties, where you have the infrastructure, you have the resources, you have a community that certainly understands this. I think in some places when you look to do manufacturing, especially in this day and age, there's just a myriad of, very fair questions, sometimes realistic understanding of what might happen and sometimes not. But given our legacy as a community, I think you kind of come in with a community that has a pretty good working knowledge of what that means and what questions to ask. And I think that gives us a real opportunity to grow that to even more businesses.
So if you attract these businesses and they bring in, or they want to bring in, lots of employees, where do we find the employees and where do we house them?
Yeah, those are great questions, and we've kind of been very focused on. We've got a group, Talent X, that works with people all around our community, and really it's kind of been framed as this isn't just kind of at one level. Certainly you want those college graduates from Saginaw Valley and Central and Michigan State and U of M and Delta to come here and take jobs. But it really is it's a continuum. It's people that are in their late 20s. It's people that are 40 and are looking for a career change. It's people who've retired from one job and still want to be engaged and active, and people that kind of always want to work in different fashions. And so, we've really been focused on that. It's kind of, you got to tell your story internally, because, young people are kind of always, I think we're always skeptical of our hometown. I'm convinced that there's a 17-year-old in Austin, Texas today saying there's nothing to do around here. So I think that's part of a time of life, but we also want to make sure that people know that, and so they see what a great opportunity it is, whether they stay here right after college, but also then to attract other folks and tell our story. And I think we've got a great story to tell. And so just Now, it used to be there was a couple, 2, 3 different mediums, radio and newspaper and TV, and now there's a whole slew, and they're often interconnected, but how can you make sure you get to where the different people are at, and in different generations, different age groups, they're at different places, and how you can make sure you get that messaging out to them. And then housing is one that we've been working on, Housing Forward. Jen Acosta has been leading that, Nicole Wilson, our VP of Economic Development. And, we've got, the city of Midland's been working hard on that along with surrounding communities. I think we've got nearly 1,000 units coming in, mainly apartments, but there's a huge need for that. And I think what we continue to focus on is that workforce attainable. That's the one that the business case for folks to build those has been challenging for a lot of reasons, whether it's the labor cost, whether it's materials cost. So how do we make sure that makes sense? Because that's a critical part. If you got people who start in the affordable, if they can move up to attainable, you got people that kind of move the other way, when they're at a different point of life. So I think we've got a good start on that, but there's a lot more to do. But yes, I think Midland, I think the Great Lakes Bay region are communities of choice. So we have to give people a place to live, and we have to give them options.
I'm not surprised to hear that it's apartments coming in because the cost of building a single-family home is just out of sight anymore.
It is, and that's that's not unique to us. It's not in the state, really around the country. You see that, and you hear those discussions, around the country. But if we can do it better, we don't have to do it perfect, but if we can do it better, that really gives us a huge advantage. And so that's what we aspire to. Is that okay? Let's do it better. Let's make sure that people know this is an option. We're bringing the jobs. We want to make sure that the people are able to come there and have a place to be. There's a kind of an old chart that says, people want place. They want a community. Talent wants place. Place needs businesses to support it, and businesses need talent. And it's kind of a circle. And you need all of those, and it's kind of interdependent. And so we want to make sure that we're helping to fill in any gaps in that.
How's the access to property in Midland for either manufacturing construction or for housing construction, for that matter?
Yeah, I think it's strong. I think we've looked at it. You kind of look at it, and you got different property owners, and you have different price points. Certainly in terms of manufacturing, as I mentioned, we've got some really great sites within the iPark, and then even just surrounding the iPark. As you go along Buttles and Lyon, we have some property right along there, what we call South Midland. So there really is good property and good assets and good infrastructure. There's certain portions that would work with MCV Capital Power, others with Consumer Energy. We've got, a great water system here, and that's a big part of doing business. And so I think, in terms of the property, in terms of the water, in terms of power, those are really key components. And, for those that are looking for the iPark, they've got a water treatment, they've got, an incinerator. They've got those things that, and they've got a whole bunch of companies that have worked in there for decades that know how to, Great Lakes safety, that you're going to have to do no matter where you're at. And so I think that gives us a huge advantage. And I think, the city, as they've updated their master plan, have really looked at the property. And like I said, we see growth, we see investment, and that's exciting. And we just want to make sure it's kind of across the spectrum in terms of where we see that investment and how the building projects are going.
All right, Tony, let me take a break and we'll come back. We're talking to Tony Stamas, the director of the Midland Business Alliance. And we will be back with him after these notes.
Got a home repair problem? Don't get mad.
And we're back with you here on WSGW, talking to Tony Stamas, President and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance. Tony, let me ask, recently at the top of Dow, Jim Fitterling retired out as CEO, moves over to executive chair of the board. Karen Carter takes over. Expect much of a change?
No, I think you see from them, and we had a chance to hear from them a bit ago, that they have a shared vision, and it's a global environment that's changed, but they kind of have a clear path forward. And I think Jim's had great leadership. I think Karen will continue that, and she certainly knows the business, knows the communities that Dow's engaged in, and I think we'll see a seamless transition, and they'll continue to work very much on kind of what they've outlined as where Dow needs to go. And so from that way, I think it'll look very similar to where we've been seeing them, kind of in the direction they've been moving.
I ran into Jim in a market the other day, and he looked pretty relaxed. He's such a unique individual. Hard to replace a guy like that, but Karen is an outstanding woman, so she'll do well.
Yeah, we are fortunate. Some just great leaders, legacy and incoming, and we have been very, very blessed with that. And so, from our end, we always want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them from the local front and from here in Midland and certainly throughout the region.
Let's talk about some of your initiatives that I'm not familiar with. What is My Pros?
Yeah, thank you. That's our young professionals group. Great group of young professionals. We don't have a specific age limit, but it tends to be, college age till about 40. But, they'll let me go to the events because I'm young at heart or immature maybe, depending on how
and you might bring,
my wife or not.
You might bring a pizza.
But yeah, exactly. But a great group, and we've been close to 300 young professionals. So just really, really a great group of young professionals. We'll do events. We did one at the Dow Championship with the regional young professionals. So Bay and Saginaw, Mount Pleasant will come over there, and so just really trying to make sure they're engaged. And we've had over the last handful of years a chance working with our local community foundation, the Midland Area Community Foundation, do a crowdfunding where businesses will apply and they work through the young professionals, and they'll narrow it down to 2 or 3, and then they'll make a grant. And it's significant. They have to raise so much money up front, and then they get a match from the community foundation. And that's really been tremendous. And the young professionals are the ones that are leading that and doing that. And so it's just it's been great to see. These are people, many who are leaders today, and many who are future leaders in our community and our region. And so really, really a critical. Isabel and our team kind of leads that effort, and they get together socially in the morning or in the evening, but they're really also engaged in terms of how they can make an impact.
And when you think about it, any community is only as good as its people. And,
it really is. That's what defines us.
And which brings us to your other initiative, Talent X, which is a kind of a talent continuum. How does that work?
Yeah, it really is. It's just the idea that we want to keep talent that's here. We want to bring talent in, but it's also across the spectrum. There's some that say, "Yep, I'm going to retire at 62 and 65," and then. But even then, I think as people talk like, well, no, I don't really want to retire. I want to do something different. And so this isn't just, you certainly want to bring the 22-year-old that's just finished college, or the 29-year-old who's kind of looking for a career opportunity, or someone who's mid-career. But you also want to look at people that are, that they finished 30 years at some place and they're looking for what's next. They retired and they said, I really want to keep busy. Maybe it's at a different level of busy. And so I think all of those are so valuable and so needed. And so how do we kind of make sure that we're optimizing that, we're attracting people, and we're working with the people that are here in the community?
All right, hang on. I want to hold you for one more segment, and then we'll let you go. Tony Stamas, President, CEO of the Midland Business Alliance, and we will have more with him when we return after these notes.
Gotta go to Godwin's.
And we're back with you talking to Tony Stamas, President and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance. Tony, let's talk broadband for a minute, because there's been a lot of talk about broadband being available everywhere. How are you doing in Midland County? I know you have a committee set up to look at it.
We do, yeah. We've been working on it for a number of years, and Bridget Granson with Midland County, Sharon Morton with the Community Foundation. Then you get the Road Commission, because there are lots of people that are involved in that, and just community businesses that know, and citizens that really know broadband. And so that's been our goal, is kind of on 2 fronts. One, to make sure everybody has an option, because you can work across the globe, but you have to have that connectivity. I often phrase it as kind of modern day rural electrification. It just kind of changes everything. You can go to school, you can work, you can talk to your doctor, but you need that connectivity. And so, certainly within the city, within, city of Midland, city of Coleman, that there's options, but in a lot of parts of the county there aren't. And so, one, we want to make sure there's a quality option, and then secondly, there's an affordability, so that people can, in areas throughout the county can afford it. And so we've been working. The federal government and the state has resources that they pass in the midst of the pandemic to help all states do that, and that's taken years, as happened. But they've awarded grants, and so the goal is all of Midland County should have an option by 2029, and by the end of 2029. And so we're still trying to work with these different providers. They're kind of in a technical phase of they've been awarded grants, but they have to, kind of go through the process at the state and the federal level to sign contracts. And there are many that we know, and there are some that we don't know, but I think they've been well vetted and they're good partners. And so, we're going to be standing ready to help them, if there's something, some issues and everything. But, they know this world, the ISP providers, and we don't need to get into their world, but we want to help them and help them to do it, make our community, help them to do that as quickly as possible, because that really is an essential component. When, you look at a home, you say, okay, is there water? Is there electricity? Is there connectivity? And that's kind of an essential question anymore.
Yeah, we learned about that in COVID, didn't we? That was a big teacher.
We really did. If we didn't know it before, we sure knew it afterwards and during.
Yeah. So the way it works, if I understand it right, these contracts with providers, they're business people putting the system in. It's not the county installing broadband.
No, correct. It's private businesses that are putting them in. You see some. Many of us have it through cable, through our cable lines. But a lot of the new ones, almost all the new ones, go high-speed fiber. Certainly have cellular coverage, and then you have the coverage like satellite coverage. And so, different areas, different things make sense. I think as you look at where the population is spread out, putting a physical infrastructure sometimes is more challenged to make the business case. So the federal government went through the state awarded, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so they're going to help these companies. And so they applied to them. We'll do this area. We'll invest this much money. And then they received grant applications. And so, yeah, they're the ones that are going to be doing it. We want to make sure that we're helping them. But, these are the people that live it every day and certainly know it. And, in a perfect world, you get a couple folks in an area, and you got capitalism, you got competition, and then, if we get frustrated or we think they're doing a good job, then we can reflect that in terms of where our business goes.
All right, so Tony, in conclusion, let's wind up with what's ahead for the Midland Business Alliance and any events coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked on them. I'm really encouraging people. In the middle of the summer, we often forget time to vote. We've got a critical primary coming up on August 4th. We've got some local millages, school resource officers, Spongy Moth, emergency medical services, county road services, and then senior services. And it'll be interesting this year because, I know going back a few decades, there's something called the Headley Amendment. And when you get an increase in terms of revenue by so much, it pushes down the tax base. And we haven't seen that a lot in Midland, but we saw that recently. So a number of these millages are going out, and where it technically has to say it's increasing from the Headley, but they're asking for the same amount that they've asked for in the past. So we're trying to get that message out. We're really supportive of that. And, on the whole, just encouraging people to get out and vote, make their voices heard, because oftentimes the primaries are so decisive in many elections and on issues like this.
Yeah, it's election time.
It is.
Yeah.
Just turn on the TV.
Welcome to the real world.
Yes.
Well, Tony, it's always fun chatting with you, and we'll look forward to doing it again.
I always appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Art.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.
Tony Stamas, President, CEO of the Midland Business Alliance. We thank him for his time this morning. Take a break and come back, tell you what's ahead on Focus.
Campaign season is funny.
Back with you here on WSGW. We'll get ready for Focus coming up with Deb Sanchez from Saginaw Promise, and Joyce Seals is all going to be along. I found this interesting, though. I found a survey online, and what it says is that we are reaching a tipping point in America where people would rather have a pet than a child. 40% of the respondents said they'd rather have pets than kids. 39% said they'd have both, and only 21% said just kids. And when asked if they'd consider building a life around a pet only, the number grew to 55%. Pets are an important part of our life. And what's happening, according to a Gallup poll in April, more than half of Americans, 55%, said their financial situation is deteriorating. And they complain that things are getting worse, not better. And pets provide an emotional support and stability. You can worry about losing your job, or you don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years, but then there's that pet that gives you stability in your life. So pets really have become a very important part of our lives in America. Pretty interesting. All right, we're going to take a break for news here from ABC and the local report, and then we will be back with Focus on our guests right after that. I'm Art Lewis. Stick around.
Broadcasting from the